God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. You're listening to I Am Poised for Purpose podcast with Kontessa, Kiel.
Hello, and welcome to I Am Poised for Purpose podcast. I am your host, Kontessa Kiel, the founder and president of Poised for Purpose Incorporated. We are an organization that seeks to ignite spiritual growth. This podcast is all about helping you to see that no matter what position you are in, you too are poised for purpose. The definition of being poised is having a composed and self-assured manner, or to be ready or in a position to do something. In the Bible, there are many stories and examples of being poised for purpose. One of my favorite people in the Bible, outside of Jesus, of course, that is a great model of being poised, is Joseph. Genesis chapter 37 through 50 captures the life of Joseph as we all know him, going from the pit to the palace. So today I want to encourage those of you that may be waiting on your purpose to be manifested, or your promises, or whatever it is that you're waiting for. Today I want to talk to you about being poised in the wait. Joseph's story begins in Genesis 37. He was the beloved son of Jacob and hated by his brothers. Joseph had a dream that him and his brothers were out in a field gathering bundles of wheat. And all of a sudden, his bundle of wheat stood tall while all of the others bowed down to him. The interpretation of this dream was that one day Joseph would rule over them, and his brothers hated him for that. Because of the dream, the brothers had a plot to kill him, but ended up selling him into slavery instead. Being sold into slavery, of course, didn't match his dream. In fact, that's the complete opposite of being a ruler, is to be a slave, right? But he had to go through it for the dream to manifest. Even Joseph's father, Jacob, waited 7 years to marry his beloved Rachel. So Joseph was not a stranger to the idea of being patient or working through things that he wanted in life. I'm sure that his father Jacob shared his love story of Rachel, on how he had asked Rachel's father Laban to allow him to marry Rachel in exchange for 7 years of labor. Jacob worked 7 long years only being able to admire Rachel. And even when he completed those years, Laban tricked him and he ended up marrying Leah instead of Rachel. How frustrating was that for Jacob to have endured those long years only to end up with someone he didn't want? But eventually Laban did allow him to marry Rachel too, but along with 7 more years of labor. So Joseph must have known that he too would be tested on his patience, as he had to wait for about 13 years for his dream to finally come to pass. But I wanted to talk to those of you who have been waiting on something. You have been waiting on a promotion. You've been waiting on marriage. You've been waiting on reconciliation with a loved one. Whatever it may be, and it seems like it has taken forever, I want to remind you today on how to be poised in the wait. Number 1, stay in position. Those of you who are just about to step out of line, you're just about to turn back, you're almost at the point of giving up, I encourage you to stay in position. You know how it is when you call into a customer service line and you get the automated message that you can't go around. You are waiting and you are on hold. All you can think about during that time is your issue. You're thinking about what you're going to say when that representative finally comes to the line, and you get even more frustrated as that whole music plays. And then the voice of a lady comes on to tell you that you have 13 more minutes to wait until someone speaks with you, or you're number 47 in the waiting queue. And in your mind, there's a voice that is just screaming for you to just hang up and do it another time, call back later. But that doesn't solve your issue. That doesn't get you the help that you need. The only way to speak to the representative is if you wait. You see, the enemy wants you to hang up. He wants you to quit. He wants you to lose your place, because he knows that if you get out of your position, then he can occupy that space. And then you may never get to the place that God intended you to be. The enemy wants to wear you down. He wants you to get frustrated to the point that you are giving up and stepping out of place. And he wants you to get out of your character and go off on people in your frustration. He wants you to get discouraged by how long you may have to wait so that you will just give up altogether. But you have to stay in position. Why? Because it's impossible to win if you quit. Number 2, how to be poised in the wait. Use your gifts. While you're staying in position, while you're waiting, use your gifts. Joseph had a gift of interpreting dreams. So when he was sold into slavery, he worked his way up to being kind of in the house. And instead of being out on the fields or wherever, he worked his way up to being in the house. But while in that house, he gets lied on and then thrown into prison. Even in prison, he works his way up to be trusted by his peers and even the prison guards. In Genesis chapter 40, there is where he meets a butler and a baker that both offend Pharaoh at that time and end up in prison. Joseph can sense that something is wrong and he offers to help them. The butler tells him, "Hey man, I had this dream, X, Y, and Z," and Joseph interprets that dream. Then the baker tells him, "I had a dream too," and Joseph tells him what that dream meant. After the outcomes come to pass, Joseph tells the butler, "Hey, when you get back to where you're going, when you get back to the Pharaoh, you tell him what happened here. You tell him about me. Don't forget about me," is what Joseph is telling that butler. And of course, it's years that Joseph still has to wait before the butler even mentions Joseph to help free him. But he still used his gifts. Joseph still worked as unto the Lord, even in prison. He exemplified strength and patience and spiritual maturity. Joseph could have went to prison and he could have just waited until his death with an attitude, just like so many of us do. We get ourselves into situations or things happen in our lives and we just allow that thing to become who we are instead of remembering who God says we are and stand on the promises of God. Joseph could have declined the butler when he asked for help with his dream. Why should Joseph help him? Dreaming is what got him in the mess in the first place, right? He could have just kept his mouth shut to his brothers when he had that dream, but he didn't. And that was the thing that helped get him out of prison. Years later, Pharaoh had a dream and needed an interpreter, and then it clicked. The butler finally remembered Joseph. So while you're in the position, while you are waiting and trying not to get frustrated, don't just sit on your gifts. Use what you've got. Use what God has given you. Do what you can until you are getting to that place of purpose and promise that God has shown you. And you just might find out that the very thing that you have been waiting on could be the thing that unlocks your destiny. Number 3, offer grace. Being poised in the wait means that you are self-assured, so you don't allow unforgiveness to linger in your heart. Yes, we are humans, so things hurt. Trials hurt. Pain that other people cause hurt. But you can't allow that thing to linger. You must offer grace to those who have offended you, those that have harmed you, those that have mishandled you in the waiting seasons of your life, those that have caused you to wait a little bit longer than you should have. Jesus said in Matthew, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." And in Luke, Jesus says, "Be merciful even as your Father is merciful." And sometimes, the hardest person to offer grace is to yourself. We can walk through life carrying our childhood traumas, mistakes that we have made, and we accept the lies that the enemy whispers in our mind that tell us that we are not good enough or that we have done too much to be used by God. Or what we have done, or that we have done too much wrong to obtain the dreams that God has given us. But things happen. When you have years and years of waiting to be who God's called you to be, or for those things to manifest and happen in your life, or years of being stagnant in the same places, that causes all kinds of dirty and filthy things to attract you. Have you ever seen a stagnant creek off a trail? It is full of bugs, trash, and just gunk because of lack of movement in the water. But forgiveness allows the Holy Spirit to flow through you, releasing you from all of that negativity, hurt, and pain. The book of John says that it is in the fullness of Jesus that we have received grace. And that grace and truth came from Jesus Christ. And as we receive Jesus, we gain the right as children of God and have the power to stand through our waiting seasons. So being poised for purpose, being poised in the wait, what does it look like? Staying in your position, using your gifts, and offering grace. I hope this helps. Remember, no matter what position you are in, you are poised for purpose.